Yeah, no, it really, really makes a difference, like where you get it.
So is it like better the more you pay for it then, or?
Actually, ironically enough, what would run you about $80 in the States would usually cost you about $5 down in Colombia, but the quality is much better.
Well, I'll give you my shipping address at the end of the show, and
Oh, perfect. Good to know.
yeah, yeah.
Hello.
Hey, we're back after 2 weeks. We're back. Has it been 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
No,
Two
it's been
weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's the regular thing. That's
We're,
how what it's supposed to be.
we're somewhat on schedule. We're very relaxed about the schedule. It seems a little bit, but yes, we're
We
back.
are an hour and a half late for being an 2 hours late for being an hour and a half late.
And it's all my fault. Which
The
is
last hour and a half was both of us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we do like a lot of talking before we do these live shows. We
We
have to
show
catch
each
up
other our
on.
work.
Yeah, exactly. We have to catch up on
We
stuff.
don't talk between the during those 2 weeks.
I don't get time to talk to like anyone. Like I'm working and then I'm back and then I chill and tap the fuck out and then before I know it, it's the next day and you just start the whole thing over again. So I don't get the luxury of talking to friends. But we're back. We're talking more about Star Wars. This has been a show that we have delayed and delayed and delayed for a very long time because stuff has just kept coming up all the time. But we
Which we're
finally
not
got around
complaining
to it. So this is an edit. I believe you've got the channel open. You know the editor and everything like that. It's a Knights of the Old Republic edit. It's part one, and it's called A Familiar Path.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Episode 1, A Familiar Path, by origin. So if you went on fanedit.org, it would say Episode 1 is by Caden Sentry, which was the name of the production company / handle, and now is a character in the movie, and now it's Star Wars KOTOR movie saga.
Right.
It's a bit. It's quite a bit.
So part of the reason for doing this one is because I have never played Knights of the Old Republic.
I thought
I
it'd be
don't know
interesting to see how you
anything about the story at all, so I was hoping that this would be a platform
So
whereby.
no spoilers in the fucking live stream. You know what I'm talking about.
Okay, okay. Well, I haven't got the live chat open anyway, so I can't see any potential spoilers. But I didn't know anything about the characters, the plot, nothing.
I don't have the
I knew that Darth Revan was a thing, and that's it. I saw the cool CGI cinematic trailers, which I don't know if they were for this game or whether they were for a sequel game, a DLC that came out. I don't know. So I was going into this completely cold, but I was hoping to get something out of it whereby I can understand what all the hype is about and why everyone loves this game.
Do you?
No, I didn't like this edit. It was really boring. It was so boring, but also I'm aware that games are a lot more fun when you play them. And this is a part one, so I'm sure there's many more parts to come. But it didn't work as a movie. This felt like a lot of busy work, which you get in games, like when you're setting up, when you got like your tutorial levels and things like that, where you have sort of you bomb off and do missions that don't really matter in the greater scheme of the plot. So maybe there would have been a way to condense down the entire game into what would be a movie with a beginning, middle, and end narrative, whereas this is just sort of episodic adventures between people and some really badly choreographed fighting. Like I get that that's the game's
let's just
mechanics,
open with
but
the game is from 2003 and it's turn-based, so they have they're cool animations and it's more intricate fighting than you'd get in most video games.
But it doesn't make for a dynamic watch when you watch it as a movie and they try and action up these sequences and make them like these big things. Also, the death animations were hilarious every time. Yeah. So you get a lot of that, especially when people die in sync as well. And you've got like 3 or 4 characters on screen that all do that perfectly timed. It's like, okay, guys, like we rehearsed, let's do this. Like, so yeah, it was a mixed bag. I mean, I'd like to see the rest of it so I get a sense of the entire story because it feels like I really don't know much still. But
yeah. Speaking of, we talked about this earlier, but that was an hour and a half ago. At some point, I think you should watch Knights of the second episode, which isn't as good. So we're not going to do review on it until the special edition comes out. Trust me.
Okay.
But you should watch the slightly improved version above the original version, but still not as good as the special edition will be.
Right. Okay. That's
And
fair.
record yourself watching that.
Okay.
Just trust me.
So,
Also, we've got
go
some KOTOR virgins in the chat.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we're gonna get no spoilers.
Uncompetitive and D-Punk Carnage, which is that a? I know it's the same person most likely, but is it in a different channel, or is you just slapped Carnage at the end of D-Punk?
So as always, we're going to review these on the same basic 5 structures that we have. Is it 5? Is it 6?
It's 5.
It's 5. Okay.
So we get 10 and multiply by 10.
Yep. So originality is the first one. How original is the edit? Is it an original concept in terms of the fan editing world?
Invisibility is the second one. The goal of every editor is to be as invisible as possible, and fan editing is no different.
Complexity, how broad a scope is the edit? Is it challenging? Would it have taken the editor a long time to achieve? Or if they just kind of slapped it together in an afternoon, which I've been known to do with some of my fan edits in the past.
I did it once as to see just if I could with one movie. It was Phantom Menace. I got a fucking headache that day. Necessity. Was this an edit that needed to be made? Was it something people were clamoring for? Did it have an effect on history?
And the final one is Movidity. Is the movie good? I guess I've already given away my section on Movidity, but I haven't given it a score yet.
Yeah,
exactly. So we'll kick off with originality then. So,
well, I just want to I just want to say before we start on the actual review, I just want to give a little bit of backstory on this because, like I said, this is a special edition. This was a remake of a 240p 13 10-minute part movie on YouTube, which is still available to watch, or you can just watch both versions while 2 of the people who made it do commentary. I don't recommend that if you don't play the game because they do spoil it because the game is from 2003 and they're not afraid to spoil that. If odds are you're watching this, you're a fan. But I shout out to the people because this was a big project. It is something that a fair amount of the fan base, anybody who's played the games likely wanted this movie. So I just want to shout out the people who made it: Stephen Jenks, JC, Brandon, aka Iceman, Brendan Basil, the Kevins, and anybody I'm forgetting. I'm sorry about that. This would not be possible without them.
But yeah, so originality in terms of this is very different from the usual fan edits we do as well. I mean, we've never done one on video games, and it's like, can you fan edit video games? I guess you can with this.
There are a couple on the IFDB.
But usually, if you go onto YouTube and you type in, say, I don't know, I'm a PlayStation guy. Let's go with the new God of War, the game that came out, like God of War movie. They stitch together all of the cutscenes, and obviously you're missing a lot of gameplay in the middle, so you kind of pick up like an abridged Cliff Notes version of the story. That's tend to be what you see when you see like a movie cobbled together from a video game. Can range from like 3 to 4 to 5 hours sometimes. But as far as I'm aware, I mean, I don't know how much of this is from the original game in terms of voiceover, in terms of, you know, camera angles. And
faithful.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw it out there.
So as far as I'm aware, they like went into this thing, they modded it, they got camera angles in there, they got the camera moving in there, they pieced this together like a movie, as good as you can from a game that plays like this when you play it as an actual game. So in terms of originality, I'd say it's pretty original, even in sort of like video game fan editing realms. So I'm going to give this probably... You also say it's very faithful as well, so I don't know if originality would have... If marks could go up for it if they changed the narrative, but also I kind of respect them for keeping it original and making it... If someone hasn't got the time to play the game, like this one here, and they just want to see the story, as far as I'm aware from you, and you said it's faithful, that's
why it was made.
Yeah, it's a good entry point where you can watch it like an average moviegoer kind of thing. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes, kind of the usual running time of at least The Last Jedi and possibly Revenge of the Sith.
The Last Jedi was 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours, 15 minutes is about the average length of a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. So, you know, it's accessible and everything like that. So originality, I will probably give a 7. Like, I think
Really?
it's up there. I think because they didn't like change the story, they weren't trying to do anything crazy with the narrative or anything like that. But in terms of piecing this thing together and getting it out there, I don't know how many people had attempted something like this before they did, or if this is sort of the best example of something like this.
So, well, a little history. This was made for people who wouldn't play the game. Specifically, one person who wouldn't play the game. Specifically, Kevin Smith's friend, Greg, I think,
Right.
who just didn't play video games. And so he's like, well, you could play a 40-hour video game, or I could spend 10 years making movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent 10 years making movies.
Fair enough.
So that's why that said, there are a number of characters who have been added from. I'm just gonna read my shit. You gave it a 7, so I know this game. I know what this changes, and I know what it keeps. It's very true to the source material, but it does sprinkle its own bits in there. You know, you see this as episode 1, but it's also a special edition, thus it's a remake, so it loses some originality. However, because it's been made after episodes 2 and 3, where the series seems to kind of discover itself, it manages to pepper in some references to the other films, like some of the characters I mentioned, Caden Sentry, who's a Jedi, but referencing the other movies could be seen as unoriginal, but since it's referencing original material and thus does involve new writing, I'm counting it. Overall, it also gets a 7 from me, but like with the others, I took some notes. However, these notes are specifically differences from the game, not including like just trimming, like cutting out quests. So instead of having to go to the Sith base to get the codes and getting the droid, then you just go right to Davik's base.
Yeah.
And so first is the Rodian and the Black Chick are the duelist Twitch and a shopkeeper who's not in that bar. But they're together because they both give the information that he needs. In the original, it's just cut between 2 different places.
Right.
The alien accused of stealing the Sith uniforms in this actually did steal them in the games. In the game. The lower city and the undercity are 2 different things in the game. The swoop race was replaced with a pod race using the game Racer's Revenge. Or actually,
that was actually the part where I thought, like, oh, we're doing this whole thing again, are we? We're doing a pod race. Okay, I haven't seen this before, where we've got to compete in a race to get some kind of reward. And then it turns out it's pod racing as well. I'm like, wow, how original is this? So that docks it points, I guess. So what's the race in the original then? Is it not a pod race?
It's called a swoop race, and it's a time thing. You'll see a much more faithful, actually, despite being a less faithful adaptation of the game, you'll see a much more faithful interpretation of swoop racing in the other Knights of the Old Republic episode 1.
Right.
Because there are 2. One of them just came out, so we had to do this.
Now this is swoop racing. Can we get that line on something?
Sure. I'll talk to Kevin. I can't. I have no means of, but I'll do it. They don't pick up the utility. They don't pick up the utility droid T3M4, who's this game's R2 on Taris. Instead, he shows up in the second movie. Remember the black officer who's told to bomb the planet?
Yeah.
Originally, it was the white officer. Except we find out later that white officer. I'm not using names because he doesn't know.
I still don't know, and I've watched the
exactly. The white officer, Admiral Saul Kareth, is the one who did the exact same thing to Telos that he does to Taris. So why the fuck does he question it? Why is he like, we'll be killing countless innocents? So they replace him with an officer who I think they introduced in episode 3 named Verda? No, wait, hang on. Because I know that I have the name. Okay, so it's not Verda, it's Varco then.
Right.
Because Verda is a Jedi. The whole party goes to Davik's estate. Atris is with the Jedi Council. There are new characters. All the pod racers are new, except for Atton Rand. He's from KOTOR 2. The Jedi Cadence Sentry I mentioned earlier, the Jedi Master Verdo, who I also mentioned earlier. There's the speeder chase with the Mandalorians on Dantooine.
Mm-hmm.
He actually, in the original one, used Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. There's a speeder chase on a very Dantooine-looking planet.
Mm-hmm.
So he used that. I don't know why. I have no idea why. But okay. It was going to be cut, and they figured out a way to do it in the game with mods. Century says Verdo Zal. The Wookiee Zalbar does not ask the player to not go to Kashyyyk.
Okay.
He doesn't really mention anything about Kashyyyk. Remember the scene where the not Millennium Falcon leaves Dantooine and all the Jedi are watching?
Mm-hmm.
Completely new.
Okay.
New animation. I think it was even unused dialogue. Scene logo. Do you remember the part where everyone is saying Zalbar should be here?
Mm-hmm. That's
actually the game saying, "Why the fuck are you not bringing your Wookiee companion to Kashyyyk, you idiot?" Which was really well cut because you're only allowed 2 members of the party,
right,
at a time. Scene. Oh, do you remember the trap with the monster in Kashyyyk in the Shadowlands? Like, I think this is a trap because there's like the thing on the.
Oh yeah.
So in the game, that's totally on purpose. You hang that thing up to lure the Tyrant attack so you can kill it.
Okay.
Because the blade of Baka is stuck in it. Baka, by the way, being the ancient hero with whom a number of Wookiees are descended from. Can you guess who one of them is?
Is that why they did it? Okay. I got that. I didn't know if it was like some lineage or if they just like named Chewbacca in honor to him, or if it's like his long distant relative. I didn't know.
Yeah, no. Actually, Chewbacca was later renamed Baka the Third.
Oh, it's like the whole Durin thing. Okay.
No, but that would be really funny if it were. When we see Freyr, Zalbar and Shundar's father, being attacked by the Mandalorians, that's actually a completely different Wookiee, and you find Freyr later.
Mm-hmm.
But he made him one Wookiee. And then, this is actually a pretty big one. The star map on Kashyyyk is completely fucking different.
Oh, really? Okay.
You know the alien that they talk to, and then the hologram of Revan shows up?
Mm-hmm. You
just talk to the alien the whole time.
Okay.
He asks you some questions. It's very video game.
So that was one bit I didn't understand, and this might be spoilers, so you might not answer this, but because I was kind of like dipping in and out of it. Was that like an old recording of Revan, or is Revan still alive?
It was used. It said it uses a holocron interface, so that means it has to be some sort of recording or AI.
Like artificial. Yeah, I was going to say artificial intelligence. Okay.
Yeah. The Calo Nord fight happens much earlier. There's no alarm, and minor spoiler: the player character doesn't shove a grenade down Calo's fucking throat. Because damn. And of course, the party at the end in the Wookiee village was just there to emulate Return of the Jedi. It's not actually a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, originality gets a 7 from both of us.
The ending was really awkward as well because you just had kind of people just standing very statically. You had like a few sparse Wookiees just dancing.
Yeah, you got this going.
Yeah, but there's like one Wookiee doing that, and there's like it's not exactly packed. I guess people had like prior engagements that night and didn't check their schedule. Invisibility. So we both gave that a 7. That's pretty cool. We're usually on the money with these things. Invisibility. How invisible are the cuts? This is going to be very different for both of us because I mean, you know the game, so you know what's cut. I'm just watching this as a thing. There were some things that were fairly jarring. I think the music editing, for the most part, was actually pretty good. There was some kind of
the music was added in later.
Yeah, I did notice some Harry Potter music was used. Some Muppets Treasure Island music was used, which I really appreciated during the Wookiee fight. I think there's Dark Knight music in there too.
There
I think for
is.
the most part, the invisibility was pretty solid. There are some things that I think are just unavoidable though, going from like combat gameplay suddenly straight into like a cutscene or dialogue. I'm gonna probably go high though again. I'm probably gonna give it like an 8. Like it did play through like a normal movie to me. It didn't feel like much was missing.
Mm.
Um,
I just want to
I
give a
want to
quick
talk
shout
about the
out.
subtitles as well, and I don't know whereabouts to talk about that. That'll probably be Movidity. I'm gonna give it an 8.
You're giving it an 8.
Yeah.
All right. It's just 8. I just want to give a quick shout out to D-Punk Carnage in the chat. I'm thinking of making my first movie edit with Red Dead Redemption 2 like a cinematic western. I
Yes.
think that's so possible considering if you hold it, I play on Xbox One, so I'm going to use certain colloquialisms. If you hold the
Cinematic
back button,
mode. Yeah.
cinematic, the camera is just awesome.
Which is impossible to play in that though. Like you'll do it for a couple of shots and then you realize I can't physically play the game like this. I'm still working through it, by the way. I'm on chapter 4 in Saint Denis, but if you get that done, dude, and you make it like a 4-hour Sergio Leone kind of Western epic, please do send that to us because I would love to review that.
Yeah, using first person will help. Definitely, I've had similar thoughts regarding using GTA for B-roll.
That's going to be a tall order. It's going to be a lot of work, dude. But if you can get that working, if you can make that happen, then absolutely go for it because it's
Good
a
luck,
beautiful
man.
game. It's a great story as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine day one of starting a project like that? Like, fuck.
Oh my god, no, I can't, and I don't want to. Actually, I can.
Yeah, and that's why I will never do a project like that. So good luck to you, man. Someone's got to do it.
I started a similar project with a different video game than any we've talking about. It'll take about 10 years to make. No, you'll make this one. It won't be great, but then in 10 years, you'll make a better one.
Yeah.
Also, good to see you, Firemark. Invisibility. Yeah, it's my turn. Yeah, so like you said, we need to judge this a little differently than we would a normal fan edit. Because it's made from scratch.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason I can actually excuse it being here is because the original first one is on IFDB, but it gives me an excuse to watch it again.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is probably the first time I've watched it through, like, a very critical eye. And besides, there is some fan editing involved, but to judge this, the only thing I can really look at for invisibility are jump cuts, microphone quality inconsistencies, which this one doesn't have. The next
there
one
was one line. There was one line that sounded really distorted, and I didn't know why.
Which one?
It's towards the end of the movie. I think it's during the Wookiee attack. There's one line of dialogue from one of the guy characters. I think it's the main character, and it seemed like really muffled and crackly. That was the only one that I picked
remember
out.
that. Yeah, it sounded like he was... Okay, yeah, he got far away from the mic to yell, and then they didn't turn it up or filter it.
That was the only one that I found, though.
I hope things are going well for Jolee and Zalbar upstairs, I think, is what the line was. Oh, also a difference from the game, Jolee doesn't have a purple lightsaber. Because he originally has a green one, but Logan now has a green one, and, you know, Jolee's black, so he gets a purple one. Hey, it's that racist Mr. Director who did it. I love you, Kevin. So, yeah, jump cuts, microphone quality, noticeable visual edits, like some of the animations, because you'll see, like, if you really look, you'll see that the lighting doesn't work with when they do overlays and color keying. But, you know, it still looks cool. Oh, and of course the main character doesn't move his fucking mouth.
Yeah, that's, you know, you got to do what you got to do. It's fine. You get used to it, but it's a bit strange.
Here's the thing: he could have moved his mouth in this. They chose not to do that because he didn't in the original, and so then he didn't in the second one. And then when they were doing the third one, where they were finally on PC using mods and all these cool camera angles, they're like, well, we need to keep it consistent. And now they're redoing them, but now the good one, episode 3, with all the cool mods and camera angles, doesn't have his mouth moving, so his mouth still can't be fucking moving.
If they've got the opportunity to do it, they should just do it. I don't know why they haven't.
He cameos in a different trilogy and moves his mouth.
Okay.
Also, due to the primitive coding of the game from 2003, the film creators were fairly limited in scripting fight scenes, and it can be noticeable if you're looking for it. Because the AI will just pick moves to fight with, and then they just have to cut that to look good with the angles they have. Let me see. But it's, those are fast paced, so you might not notice them. Oh yeah. Also, a guy randomly disappears in the background on Dantooine. That just happened. I have no idea why. It's just
maybe there's some Wikipedia article out there that will probably explain why he disappears.
Yeah, it's like a crane shot where we show the not Millennium Falcon. That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, no,
it's
it
called
is. It
Ebon Hawk.
No, it's not like Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
Just as Terrace is not Coruscant.
Yes. No, I thought it actually was Coruscant when it cut to it.
No, the whole planet's one big city, but its golden years are long gone. Do the primitive coding. And also, this is more a fault on the game, but when the party is stealing the Ebon Hawk, across the room on the other side of the hangar, Davik and Callow are running to the Hawk as well because something is happening. And there's no entrance on that side of the room. They're just kind of running.
These are the things that only you notice, I think, because I didn't notice any of this stuff.
That's something I noticed while playing the game.
Yeah.
So it gets up 7.5 for me.
Okay, that's still pretty close to what I gave it.
This is still an invisibility thing. What did you think of Malik without the respirator voice in the flashback? The dark side is strong in this place.
I'm trying to remember desperately back to that point.
That was a voice actor. That was somebody they brought in because
I remember his voice at the beginning, and I remember him launching the attack on the city.
Darth Malik is not a very big presence in this movie.
And then I don't remember any other scene with him where he talks.
That's okay. It's the dream where they first see the star map.
Right. I honestly can't recall that point. I do think that the voice could have been a little bit more menacing, just as the character in general.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Maybe adding some kind of deepness to his voice, perhaps, would have done something.
Yeah. Okay. This doesn't fit in a single category. This is just me saying, "Hey, Disney, do this." Malik is a throwaway Vader clone because this is very much a throwaway Star Wars story.
Yeah.
It's set in a very interesting time and it's told very well, but it's a throwaway Star Wars story. If these stories were ever adapted to the new canon, replace Malik with Darth Bane, who established the rule of two and based off of the teachings of Darth Revan.
Yeah.
So, that seems like a pretty... Also...
Okay, so Bane came after these two?
Bane came 3,000 years after these two.
Okay.
It takes place 4,000 years before the original trilogy.
Right, okay.
Because they were like, listen, BioWare was like, we'd like to make our own story. And like, well, if you're going to do that, you got to get pretty far away from my movies.
How does 4,000 years sound?
That's pretty far. But, I say that the Republic has only stood for 1,000 years. But you say that the Jedi have defended the Republic for 1,000 generations. Oh, yeah.
There's a difference between a generation and a year. Okay, complexity. I'm giving this one high again. So, true, they're not building...
I'm just gonna let you know, though, it's not a 10.
No, but mine's gonna be a 9.
Okay.
So like, true, you're not building the game from the ground up, like you're not creating the likenesses for the characters, you're using pre-made stuff already. But in many ways they are kind of building this from the ground up. Like, yeah, they have the blueprints of the story and they're going to have some things that naturally happen in the game, but they are kind of having to direct and move these things around and get the camera into shots and pick and choose shots and cinematography in it and everything like that, everything they want. They're drafting in voice actors, they're piecing it all together from shots. So it is inherently like making an animated movie. Like, you've got like all the pre-rendered stuff and then you just have to go nuts with it. So
it's more complex than most fan edits. I won't say any fan edit. It's on par with something we're going to be reviewing in the not too distant future as far as complexity is concerned.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Not you, but I'm talking to you in the chat. You know what you sent me.
But you mentioned that this took a good few years to make. I get that impression because at the start you sort of had very static camera angles, and then it seemed by the end of the edit they got a lot more bolder with the camera. The camera was like moving in like action scenes. It seemed a lot more dynamic and interesting to watch than the first half of the movie.
There's history to that.
But in terms of just like having this idea and getting it done, and like all the people that must have been involved with this, and you know, you can see the passion they probably have for it, and even wanting to attempt something like this in the first place, it's got to get a 9. Like, it's got to be up there. Like, if I gave it a 7 or an 8, it feels like I wouldn't be doing it justice. You're gonna go give it a 7 now, aren't you?
Like, no, it's getting a 9 for me as well.
Okay.
Because right off the bat, it's definitely getting a 9, and the reason I'm not giving it a 10 is because they're making a 10, and we're reviewing a 9.5 next show.
Mm-hmm.
Just trust me on that. That's all I really am going to say about that one, though.
Okay.
Oh, spoilers for the next show, by the way. It's going to get a 9.5 in complexity from me.
So you want to take the because I talked for a lot just then. Do you want to take the next section?
Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. Necessity. This is probably the most consistently requested Star Wars anthology film I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every top 10 Star Wars movies Disney should make video has Knights of the Old Republic somewhere in like the lower middle portion.
I'd say Obi-Wan Kenobi is the one that everyone wants, but very, very closely. And actually, we might be getting it with the Game of Thrones, with the Game of Thrones writers, D&D. Don't we just love them after season 8 of Game of Thrones? They're making a new trilogy, so maybe it will be an Old Republic trilogy.
Hey, I heard Rian Johnson might be helping, so I have
oh,
hopes.
Great! What a match made in heaven that's going to be. Fuck me, right? Jesus. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
But yeah, no. KOTOR's isn't usually number 1, but it's definitely in the lower middle portion of the lists.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely something a good portion of people wanted, though not necessarily how they wanted it. I think most people probably wanted a live-action interpretation. This more amounts to something made by Dave Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from just the animation that we could call stylistic to all the callback jokes. Mm-hmm. Also, it loses a point for being a remake, so 7.
Okay. So we're on the
you haven't done.
Oh, Necessity. Yet. Yeah, of course. Necessity. Did this need to be made? I don't know if it needed to be made. I appreciate that it was made for people that don't really get much time to play video games. I would say it was necessary. As you said, like, a lot of people do clamor for this story, and to see it in a movie form, albeit still in the same animation and still from the video game rather than an actual live action movie. I do think there is some necessity there, but I'm going to sort of give middle of the road. I'm going to give a 6.5. It's like, it's nice to have, but people were madly clamoring for it. I don't think.
Middle of the road, right?
You what? Sorry.
5 is the middle of the road.
It's a little bit more than the middle of the road. We're like 100 paces down the middle of the road, so a little nudge higher. Also,
wait a second. 100 paces down the middle. Okay, wait a second. Here's the road. Is the road going? Where is the middle of the road to you?
Well,
is it long ways or is it Like, because I would
Um,
say the middle of the road is while you're crossing it.
well, to gauge this, you need to know how far this hypothetical road is. You
True.
measure it, and then you halve it, and then you go like a little bit. I'm saying 100 pace. I don't know. Whatever the incremental nudge would be past that midway point to get it to a 6.5. There.
All right.
Maths numbers. It's late at night. I'm very tired. The
What
final
are you talking
section.
about? It's only 5:30.
If only you could perceive time as I do.
I'm gonna open movie because I'm gonna have to do
Sure.
math when I'm done.
Okay.
This is not the best movie I've ever seen. It's not the best Star Wars movie I've ever seen.
No,
It's
definitely
very
not.
enjoyable for me, but it's really almost just a translation of the video game, and that doesn't always translate over well. That said, I think it's as good as it possibly can be while still being faithful to the game. So I'm gonna give it a C or whatever. I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Oh, we're
I
doing
don't know how
letters now? Okay. New ranking system. Let's do this.
I don't know how your system does grading in schools.
So it's changed since I was at school. You had top marks was A star, then you had A,
What the
B.
fuck are you talking about?
So it was like A star, A, B, C, D, E, F, and anything below an F was an unmarkable, so it was given a U. That would be like if you wrote your name on the paper and then on question 1 you put "go fuck yourself" and then you left and you didn't do any more. That'd be a U.
Oh, so college for me.
So now they've changed it since I was at school, and it's ranked on a 1 to 9 system.
Oh, really?
And I believe 9 is like the equivalent to an A star, and then it sort of descends that way. It's weird, and I don't understand it. It's all based on sort of like point ratios now, and if you get between these certain amount of points, you qualify for a 9 or a 7 or an 8 or whatever it happens to be. It's weird. I don't understand it. It's unnatural, and I don't know why they change things.
Confusing in the...
So Movidity, I've kind of already gone on my spiel of what I thought of this movie. I didn't like it. It didn't really keep me engaged or gripped. The one thing that I did like, and sadly isn't in this very much, and maybe this comes into later in the game, was the Darth Revan and Darth Malak stuff. Initially, I was against the sort of Lord of the Rings, sort of like the world has changed opening, where we get this whole extended flashback as to what happened with those and the origin story with them. I guess it is kind of necessary, but as soon as you open with that and then you go into the natural Star Wars opening with the the 20th Century Fox fanfare, but not the 20th Century Fox logo, you have the take on that. You have the BioWare logo and the Lucasfilm kind of thing. And then you have your natural Star Wars opening. I would have appreciated more if they'd have just opened like that and put all of that information that was in that prologue into the opening crawl, maybe. I think you could have done that. You get it in dialogue anyway later on throughout the movie, and you do get flashbacks to the same flashback that we opened with. But that was the most interesting stuff for me as a Star Wars fan, was learning about these two characters, the fact that they were once Jedi, they went to fight in the Mandalorian Wars. I now feel what people of the original trilogy did when they heard the name Clone Wars, and they went like, "Oh, what was the Clone Wars?" Now I hear like the Mandalorian Wars. I'm like, "Oh my god, I want to know more about the Mandalorian Wars."
I'm just gonna go right ahead and say you didn't watch Rebels, so you didn't get this, and also you didn't play Knights of the Old Republic. So if you watched Rebels, you wouldn't have gotten this. But there is a point where one of the main characters says to a Mandalorian character, "Newsflash: the Jedi won the war with Mandalore," and I just felt thousands of fans just scream in delight.
But it's Legends now, remember, because Disney systematically wiped. They Order 66 did.
I'm really okay with that because, like I said, this is a story that I want made canon. I want it made canon. I don't want it turned canon. I don't want to switch to be flipped and this is now canon. I want this to be adapted to the new canon.
Mm-hmm.
Probably only taking place 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, that's when everything seems to have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, the Sith have been extinct for a millennium. I won't let this republic that stood for 1,000 years be split in two. Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 things right there that will make for a kick-ass Old Republic trilogy, and you haven't given a number for movie.
And then you get the D&D writers and Ryan Johnson's pen a script for it.
Woo! I mean,
yeah,
on the D&D writers, I remember the good stuff.
We need to work on a particular fan edit, by the way, of that at some point in the not too distant future.
I thought that was like years off. Actually,
yeah. It will be. I just say like we will need to get around to that at some point. Anyway, movie.
Not to sound like my ex-wife, but I did want to invite a third to that.
Yeah, sure. The more the merrier. Why stop at 3, right? Movie. I didn't like it. It didn't keep me gripped. It didn't keep me engaged. Maybe if I play the game myself, I would have more of a connection to it. I think another thing as well, the writing of this game is fucking atrocious. It's so bad. Nothing about it sounds Star Wars. It sounds really modern. A lot of the characters just seem really whiny. That one at the start who kept going like, "You think I'm a little girl?" She reminded me of like
Mission.
Ahsoka, like the first couple of season Ahsoka in Clone Wars, where you just want to force choke this bitch because she's so annoying. It's like, we get it.
Okay.
We get it.
Everyone hates Mission.
Okay. She's even got a stupid fucking name.
She gets told she's shit in this, I think, or the next one. Hang on. You keep going.
But yeah, no, the dialogue really didn't do anything for me. The subtitles as well for the aliens just didn't seem natural. They didn't seem right. And the writing, I didn't really get to grips with any characters. I don't feel like I know any characters, really. It did seem like a sort of series of mostly unconnected events where we've got to kill random goblin creatures and spider creatures, and then Wookiee politics, which isn't interesting. Did we not learn enough? Did we not learn enough from the holiday special that hanging around with Wookiees for more than an hour is not interesting?
No. We learned something from the holiday special, and it's when you're hanging out with Wookiees for more than an hour, you need some fucking subtitles.
Okay, fair enough. I just didn't think the subtitles were that compelling. I just didn't give a fuck about the story. When you open with the whole Malik and Revan stuff, that's the kind of stuff I want followed up on. Yes, you're going to have your new characters. Yes, you're going to have your obligatory building your party, because, you know, every Star Wars movie now needs to have some kind of party or ragtag team.
I should tell you something. You're so fucking hyped for the Mandalorian Wars, I should probably let you know. You know how I said there's a 10 in complexity on the way that they're working on?
Yeah. Oh, man. Are they going to go back?
Watch no trailers. That's all do not look up a single trailer for Revan, a Rogue Jedi. Just trust me at that one.
Okay.
It will spoil something for you.
Okay.
It will spoil it for you, too.
But it's I wanted more of that. I would have liked more of the rich lore building and discovering this stuff, and that's what the stuff I thought I was going to get. What I got was a party of mostly unlikable characters. I honestly can't remember many of them.
The best character comes in the next one. The best character.
Yeah, and then just a sort of series of disconnected events. What was the bit of the main game that I really liked in terms of where I did sort of stop and watch it and go like, oh, okay, this is happening? The bit where they destroy the city because the villain has, he has a presence in the plot and he's trying to kill the heroes. And that's what you have in a movie usually. And then you just sort of spiral off into nothingness, and it didn't keep me gripped at all. Movie, I'm honestly gonna give. I really want to give this low, but I don't know if that's really bad of me.
No, dude, it's opinion. This is opinion based.
I'm gonna give it a 2.
Jesus Christ!
Like, I really didn't like it. The stuff that I did like, as I mentioned, was the lore stuff, even though it's very, very few and far between. Revan and Malik are cool characters. I want to know more about them. But I just didn't like any of the characters in this, and the writing was absolutely atrocious.
I'm honestly, it still does better than most that we've done, and it does on par with Andreas's Storm of Swords.
Oh, okay, nice.
70.5 is a final score.
Is it like completely break even with it? With the Game of Thrones one? Does it completely break even with the Game of Thrones one?
Yeah, Andreas got 70.5 on that one.
Oh, cool.
He got 68 in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I actually recorded all of them, like put them all in the same document today. So far, we're at 66.5 for Man of Steel, 68 for first Game of Thrones. Pulp Empire was 64.5. Phantom Menace was 74. Then 70.5 for Storm Swords. Ivan got 60.5. Andrew got 63 and 70.5.
Nice. Right. I guess you can announce what we're going to be reviewing in 2 weeks' time.
Yes. This is I've been calling it the other episode 1. It is actually not at all episodic. In fact, the person who made this started off making movies of Knights of the Old Republic 2. And this was before Rogue One was a thing. And he technically invented the anthology system.
But
he actually he was doing it before Rogue One.
He did it before it was cool, and then all of a sudden it wasn't cool because Solo bombed.
I mean, that was such a bad. That's just a testament to fucking advertisement.
Well, we have one bad movie, therefore we need to scrap our entire slate of movies. Okay, that makes sense. That's not at all reactionary Disney.
It was so
pointless. It was pointless. Okay,
here's what was pointless about it. Honestly, like, let's assume this was because of a boycott and not because of poor 100 days of advertisement.
Okay.
You've killed the anthology movies, which means you're not getting any of the movies you wanted. You're just getting episode 9 and the next trilogies. I'm not. You is royal, not you.
Yeah.
But you.
It's like you release a completely pointless Han Solo movie that no one gives a fuck about. You bring that movie out. Yeah. He's not Han Solo until like the last minute of the movie.
He is. He's Return of the Jedi Han Solo.
Yes, exactly.
Which is real Han Solo.
Yeah. And then you end your movie with the promise of getting a Solo trilogy out of it or some shit, and it's like, no, like, okay, scrap this. You get introduced to Han in the original trilogy. You don't need any kind of backstory for him. You put an Obi-Wan movie out instead. Guaranteed you would have got better box office gross out of that. With or without 100 days of advertising.
Yeah,
you put an Obi-Wan movie out there with Hugh McGregor, boom, everyone's going to go and see it.
Yeah, I think it would have definitely suffered under 100 days of advertisement. I think box office wise, it probably would have gotten like 400 million. It definitely would have done better than Solo, but it wouldn't. By the way, I like Solo, but I recognize it's nothing anybody asked for, and and the main one thing I heard a lot was the main advertisement for Solo was Solo. Like, you was actually going and watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any? So I still haven't said what the next one is.
No, you haven't. We got a bit sidetracked.
Yeah, we started talking about. Anyway, it's called Star Wars, Knights of the Republic, A Soldier's Destiny, a Star Wars story. I think it is, which is by Darth Varkor.
So I'm going to be watching the same section again, like part 1 of the story.
Yeah. So I know the beginning is very different. I know that the Terrace is handled a little bit differently, and they don't go to Kashyyyk; they go to Tatooine instead.
Okay.
Dantooine is very much the same, except he has a different master. Sorry, he has a master. No, he has a different master. He has a master in this. Was it Master Jar? I think. Yeah, it was Master Jar who trains him.
In like a week, apparently.
Yeah.
But hey, if Rey can wield a lightsaber right from the off, then who am I to complain, right?
Oh, I promise you are going to eat those words. Not about the Rey thing, the Logan thing.
Okay.
Rey is overpowered. She's not a Mary Sue, but she's overpowered as fuck. So, closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. This didn't do anything for me, but I am curious to see like the rest of the game, or even if not that, just like read up more about the lore so I have more understanding about it.
watch the second one and record yourself.
Yeah, all that.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. I got a bit more free time this upcoming week, so hopefully I'll be able to get some stuff watched. But yeah, it didn't really do anything for me, which is a shame, but I still kind of want to know more about the lore around this time period. I guess that's sort of my closing thoughts on it.
My closing thoughts, don't tell Peter.
Oh, I don't know what that means. That means something to someone.
I will tell you.
I thought you were going to abruptly. I thought you were going to abruptly end it there, but I need to do.
No, you need to do a thing.
Yeah, I need to do the thing. So any regular viewers know that every single time we do this, I get requested a word from someone, usually in the US, to say in my British voice. Usually that is a word that does sound very different between the UK and the US, but I don't think it will this time, apart from my accent. The word is Neapolitan.
Neapolitan. Is it one flavor or 3 flavors?
It's 3 flavors. It's 3 flavors. Because it's in 3 sections. If it was all sort of like mashed up in like this horrible pulpy mess and then frozen
what if it were swirled?
I would still say it's 3 flavors.
I would say I'm willing to say that Neapolitan normally is 3 flavors. That is 1 flavor because you can only ever get the 3 as one.
So it's vanilla strawberry chocolate, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm not a big fan of chocolate ice cream, so whenever I used to buy it, I used to stick to the vanilla, eat all the vanilla, stick to the strawberry, but I would leave that strip of strawberry that's merged with the chocolate because I don't like the taste of chocolate ice cream.
Or just get some vanilla and some strawberry ice cream, you fucking maniac.
What I eventually started doing, yes. I was like, can we get Neapolitan ice cream that's just vanilla and strawberry? Like, can we do that?
Just get 2 different... Get 2 pints!
It comes in pints. I'm getting one.
You got a whole half already? I lost my goddamn shit when you said that.
The beauty of that, when you missed it, when you threw off the headphones, it was great.
And then I was listening back and playing it later. But yeah, I'm actually going to sign off with this one because I just want to point out I wasn't thrilled with with my performance in the last one. In the last review, it seems this show, me, and sobriety do not go together.
You're like this version of Mike's to classic.
Now, I'm still here. The show's still here. So you guess what's missing.